Jury selections underway in a manslaughter case against an Omaha surgeon.
Investigators say he was racing on Dodge and a woman was killed. Brian Mastery joins us with some of what the jury will hear.
Aaron, John, first, here's UNMC surgeon Dr. Mark Carlson as his attorneys work through jury selection today. A pool of 50 potential jurors started the day in this courtroom. Carlson teams plans to argue he had a medical episode, and that caused the fatal crash. The crash scene closed Dodge Street in front of the University of Nebraska, Omaha for hours. It's September 2023. It's 10:30 on a Friday night. Investigators allege Dr. Mark Carlson was racing someone in his Mercedes when he lost control and smashed into oncoming traffic. Crash data indicated the surgeon was going 101 miles per hour with the gas pedal floored moments before impact. The driver in the other car, Anna Bozma of South Dakota, was killed. Her boyfriend injured. She was 22. Anna had just graduated from South Dakota State and started graduate school. Friends said she planned to be an occupational therapist.
Through interviews with witnesses as well as security footage.
62-year-old Mark Carlson spent 7 weeks in the hospital. Once released, he was booked on manslaughter charges. Trials are about evidence. In the 16 months since the fatal crash, attorneys from both sides have been arguing over what the jury will hear. Today, District Court Judge Dwayne Doherty shared a roadmap. For example, the defense can call an expert witness to testify that Dr. Mark Carlson had been diagnosed with syncope. That's a condition where one faints. But the expert is prohibited from giving his opinion as to whether that happened the night of the crash. The jury is not yet seated. We are expected to get opening statements tomorrow. Trial is scheduled for 10 days. Live in the studio, Brian Mastery, First Alert 6.